We're going to make a new handle, here a knob out of this block of aluminum and some brass and steel rod. And I'm going to go ahead and square it off. And the other side. Got this all squared up, and I'll come back to it later, but first I have to put the hole in here. That will receive the other end of this rod. So I'll go ahead and turn down the rod to accept the hole. I'm going to have to cut this to length and then turn down part of it. It'll fit through there and stop, and then it'll get press fit into here, about that. So I need to take it down to about 0.325. So it's fitting pretty well. It's a little bit tight, but actually working it a little bit, it seems to be loosening up, taking off maybe some of those really high spots. So I think I'm going to leave it at that, maybe file it a little. So it's a little loose now, a little bit of wiggle, but I think it's okay. It won't be catching anywhere. I'm also going to taper it a little bit on the end to make the press fit easier. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off and then face that end. And now I'm just going to clean up this face. So I like to use my center drill as an edge finder because I don't have one. So I just touch off on each edge and go halfway to get to the center. And in order to do a press fit, I'll need a drill bit that is 0.325 and a little less. So this is a size P drill bit. It's about 3/1000 undersized for what this will be, and I'll drill down just past that depth. So I expected this to be press fit, but it's a little loose, so I think what I'll have to do is use a chisel and sort of make marks, so it's sort of like a spline. I don't have a straight line knurl, but that would expand the material so that it should work more like a press fit. So this side's got a taper, but to make the press fit a little easier, I'll also countersink this side. This is basically the functional part of the handle, aside from the press fit. So now I'm going to turn it from a block into something that'll, of course, feel better on your hand and look a little better. So I'm going to make a cut along this, sort of irregularly, not at 90 degrees to anything. And then I'll sort of pull this about a ½ inch up and put pins, brass pins, 4 of them in there. So it sort of looks like the handle's been extended. It's kind of hard to describe, but you'll see it as I make it. I think that looks pretty good. I'll need to flatten them now so that they don't have all these saw marks. So they're not perfect, but if there's a little bit of a gap, I think it won't be very noticeable because they'll be separated by that much anyway. Now I'm going to make the holes that will house these little brass extensions to connect them together. It's 3/8 rod, and I have a 3/8 end mill, but it's not center cutting. But my 5/16 is center cutting, so I have to go in and pilot it first with that, and then I'll go ahead and finish them all up with this one. next hole. And here's the second hole. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the 3/8. And that's kind of how it will fit. Essentially, it'll be like this. Of course, that'll be much smaller, and there'll be two of them. So my two rods will be 1 inch long each, and then they'll extend 1/4 inch into each side, leaving a 1/2 inch gap. And that's just the right size. I decided to make it 1 1.25 inches instead. And they don't press fit right now. They're still loose, but there it is together. I'll see if I can clean up this space. Polished up. I'm ready to put them together right after I expand the brass pieces so that they'll press. This should expand it a little bit. So a straight line knurler would have done a lot better job, but the metal's expanded, so I'll polish them and press them in. And they're all shined up, ready to press in. So these are feeling stiff, so I think that should just press. I might have to hammer it a little bit. Right, they're in. I'm going to try to squeeze it here on the press. And I think it looks great. And for the rest of the project, I'll be switching to the 4-jaw chuck. This will be the basic profile. I'm going to rough a lot of it off here on the belt sander and then take it over to the lathe. So I like that shape pretty well. I'm also going to sort of take off these hard corners to make it a little even easier on the lathe. With most of that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and chuck it up. It should still be centered, and start turning that away. So I've been turning straight diameters all the way up until now. It just barely bridged that gap. And so now I can sort of start doing the smaller. That's the basic shape. It'll just need polished up, of course some sanding too, and it'll be a finished handle.